This episode is sponsored by my online training portal, which is designed by me to help you become a building forensics badass. You can get free access right now at buildingperformanceworkshop.com. Enjoy. Welcome to the Building Performance Podcast from the Building Performance Workshop in Chicago. I'm Corbett Lunsford, and today we're talking about trends in high-performance building and retrofits with Chris Laumer-Giddens, who's a principal at LG Squared Architects in Atlanta. Chris, thanks so much for taking time today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you have been an architect for a long time, and you recently decided to also become a builder. Why is that?
So a couple of years ago, a homeowner came to a builder friend of ours looking for a good builder, a builder that was aware of how to build, high performance and energy efficiency. She'd done a lot of research. So she went to Southface Energy Institute here in Atlanta, Georgia. They're a nonprofit. They focus on performance and research in that arena. And so they knew of builders and other folks in the industry. So they referred her to a builder out of Athens, Georgia called Louis Emery. His company's the Emery Group. And he, being in Athens, and she wanted a home about an hour and a half away. It was a bit far. So he referred them to us to design the home for her in a way that she was looking for in this performance. And so someone who could execute these details and really draw it out and say, hey, spell it out for these builders who, to get me the house that I want. So we did it. We designed this house for her, and we spelled it out, and we said, it's got to be built this way. And she said, well, how are we going to make sure this gets built the way you're designing it? I said, well, we can go back to Luis. Well, he doesn't want to do it because he's an hour and a half away. Well, what do we do next? Do we know any builders here? And she said, well, why don't you build this house for me? And so that was the beginning of a trend now that homeowners are seeing. They want this high performance home. They want a certain level of, construction and design, and they're not able to find that balance, someone who can understand how to execute all of that. And then there's the other aspect of the mechanical systems, which is a very integral part of the house. And someone who understood how to get that in. So we know a lot of great contractors, but essentially, we do the design now, and we integrate these designs into our homes, and then we're there to make sure that the mechanical designs, all of our details, all of the enclosure is executed. It's pulled together exactly the way we designed it, and including the aesthetics, how all the details about cornice details, and to make sure it looks as good as she expected it to be, and then also performs.
So details and specs. You, I'm imagining, are building in specs for exactly how you want all the systems to perform. HVAC as a start, since you do the design on that, but also I'm sure that you have specific blower door targets that you're looking for and all this stuff. So are you finding that the contractors that you hire are actually reading the specs and understanding them and actually performing, or do you have to go back and actually fix almost all the stuff that goes in?
You're always hopeful that the time you spent on writing the specs and, drawing those details, that they paid attention. They're 9 times out of 10, you show up on the site and they're asking questions on how to do this and how to do that. And of course you say, well, it's in the details, it's in the drawings. So this is, this is exactly why we're sort of pushing for this model here that we've got of designing it and following it through to make sure it's done. Because we've spent hours and hours on these specs, and either some just don't read it, or they don't understand it, or they can't read it, or anything. So we're just saying, well, let's maybe not spend so much time on that upfront spec and the details, because we're there to make sure it's done, and we'll have to explain it anyway. So we end up drawing it, having it in our back pocket, let's say, and when we show up to guide them, our subcontractors, we say, let's talk about this. Here's the sketch this is how I want you to build it. And so we're finding we can spend a little less time on the upfront, because there's no sense writing anything, because it gets it as much as we like to believe they read it, they don't. And so, and we're okay with that. We just accepted it and said, that's fine. You don't have to read it. I'm going to be there. We'll walk you through it. And it becomes a partnership then. and we get them excited about what we're doing instead of having it be this battle of you didn't read my specs, you wrote too long a spec, or we just, so we just from the very get-go say, look, we're going to be there, helping and working this.
You were about to say holding your hand.
I was. That's so rude.
But the specs...
That's exactly what it isn't. It's not a holding hand process because it used to be that way where we had to sort of think of it that way as architects. But now we're the builder, we're the architect. We're on all sides of it, and we don't want to think of it as that. We want to respect them, just like we're all on the same team here. We're all on the same level, and we don't want to have a hierarchy. We want to let's work this out together. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want the specs, then that's okay. We'll work it out. Let's do this together. But knowing that we're going to be there helps out a lot.
Yeah. And so just to say one more thing about the specs, are you not putting in specific language that you can then hold them to so that they don't get paid until it gets done the way that you want it? Or are you kind of making it only an optimistic, like, I know we can work on this together and work it out?
Yeah, we put in really critical things. We do put our blower door targets in there. We put performance specs on a lot of it, saying this house has been designed to achieve X infiltration rate, and we pretty much use the same one. We're at 0.5 or less than 1, and because we know we're going to get there. We're going to do everything we can. If I have to get out there with my own tool belt and do it, I'm going to do it.
And just to clarify for anybody in the audience who does not know what less than 1 means, will you clarify?
Excuse me. Well, I'm amongst the experts now, but yes. So 1 is referring to the air changes per hour at a certain level of pressure. So if your house is under a pressure 20 miles an hour on all 6 sides, that's at 50 pascals, and so we use that gauge. It's a pretty common one.
And how did you decide on a tightness level that's 3 times tighter than the best building code that's out there right now?
Because we've done it, and we know that it's not that difficult to do. You just need to pay attention, and it's not expensive. It's none of that. It's just to us, we see something like that as part of the craftsmanship of a building. Every detail from the trim to the air tightness to water management, it's all about the craft. And all of that comes from starting, you have to plan even those. And building science requires design. The building enclosure, you design it based on the location, and everything in that enclosure and in that design, the aesthetics to science, it all depends on the person in it, the people living in it, the animals living in it, where it is. The list goes on of all of the things that determine that end result. Mm-hmm. And location and is a big one. That's what most people are aware of, orientation, things like that. But what if there's a factory nearby? Maybe you don't want to open it up to fresh air coming from outside if there's some nasty fumes all over the neighborhood. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we limit it some more. So, you have to know everything. It's so difficult to really get it right. But so we just do that because we know why we determine, 1, we can do it. That why we can get under 1, but 1 ACH 50, excuse me. But we can also, we know how much it affects the performance of the building. Our climate is typically more heating dominated than cooling dominated. It's kind of a misnomer. People don't understand that about North Georgia, at least. And so what I'm finding is the tighter our buildings are, our homes are, heating actually becomes less because it has such an impact on the heating load. And plus, it's just healthier. We could go on all day about air tightness, but that is one of our big ones after keeping the water out.
Now, you present on this stuff all over the place. And I'm interested to hear what you say when somebody says, and I think that you even prompt your audiences, like, can we build a house too tight? So what do you say to people when they have that question for you?
So there's questions like, can a house be too tight? What kind of mechanical system is best? How much fresh air do I need? Is spray foam a good idea? And it's always, it depends. It depends on you. It depends on where you are. It depends on your budget. So many factors lead to making a decision like that. And it's not an easy it's not an easy process, and not to say that we're smarter than anybody else. It's just, it takes a lot of research and understanding of what the people need, what they can afford, and where the house is and what the materials are made of. And as I've said many times in the opening of these presentations, this is not rocket science. It's harder. It's way harder than what I perceive as rocket science. I've never designed a rocket. So
no offense, rocket scientists.
Absolutely, and I'm sure I'm wrong, and you could ask me next week, because as I've said before, every week the building. I mean, we could go from needing 1 ACH50 to 10 ACH50 one week to the next. We don't know. We just don't know. Research just keeps coming. We keep doing research. We keep doing testing and finding new information. We don't know there's no silver bullet. There's no right answer. It all depends.
Mm-hmm. Now, I hope that the builders who are listening to this understand that an architect who just became a builder, and by the way, how many hoops did you have to jump through to do that? Did you fill out a piece of paper at least? Did you sign your name to something?
I did. I ordered it online for $20.
$20.
Yep.
Builders. And the reason that Chris had to do that with his wife Jody is that they couldn't find a builder to do exactly what they were looking for. Now, that means that, yes, you should be a little bit concerned, but also they came to you for this design of this high-performance home, and you know for a fact that you can deliver this, not just because you're an architect, because I personally know architects who don't know very much about this stuff. You have special knowledge. So what do we need to get across to most architects to get them to at least come to in the neighborhood of where you are with your understanding of what the specs need to be, and forgetting about the things that are in the Green Builder magazine, even though they have a lot of good things, there's also a lot of flash in the green conversation right now. What's the path for those people?
I start off the same presentations with, when I talk about this being difficult, not like rocket science, but I say surround yourself by people who do know. If you don't know now, don't worry about it. Don't think you have to go back to school or, really just spend the rest of your, careers learning this. It is, if you're interested in it, go for it. Get into it. But I think if you don't know, recognize you don't know, and surround yourself with the people who do know, because I still do. I mean, you do too. You find the people that know more than you do, and you become that. You're smarter that way, because you then learn from them. And so we consult with architects, builders all over the country. They come to us because we have that expertise and they're doing what I would recommend all architects do. Not saying give us all that. I don't want all that. I can't be everywhere. So learn it if you want to learn it. But if you don't know it and you know that it's worthy, then find the people who do know it and have them be involved. Connect with them, surround yourself with those people, and make sure and you manage it. You make sure it gets. You set the standard. That's what architects are known for. We manage it. We represent the owner. We're their ambassador, and so they come to us for that. We make sure we're kind of the center of it all, and we kind of orchestrate. I've always called us as like conductors of an orchestra. You have all the instruments there, and we're making sure they're all staying in harmony. And so we have to get the best musicians for that to have the best sound, the best result.
So I totally agree with everything you just said. And to go back to the beginning of our conversation, I believe that design is the beginning of the entire process. If it's not designed properly, there is no chance it's going to be built properly. But architecture has also, interestingly, been on the decline for the last couple of decades. And there's this concern that the plans that you can buy online and everything, people are going to try and just tweak them to make them a little green, add the bells and whistles or whatever. What happens when architects become more and more marginalized in the residential construction space? And how do we stop that so that the design, the intent of the design is still there, even if somebody doesn't want to necessarily hire an architect to build something from scratch and design it, but really to make sure that the design actually works as a system?
I don't know. There's not an answer to that, I don't think. But it's true that architects have become less involved in the design, the design of homes and of buildings, less so building or homes than buildings. We need a real architect. I mean, that's a commercial thing. We really need that guidance. We should have it on homes as well, not just for the customization, but for the execution of all of it, like we talked about. Part of our job as architects has always been informing our homeowner clients what they're looking for. I mean, they come to us and say, oh, I think this is it, and here's a plan that I found online. Can we just tweak this and tweak that? In the end, we have spent more time and their money coming up with the plan they really want, because they said, well, we want to start here. No, let's start from scratch and really get it to where you want it for you. And that's a custom process. If you're looking for just that builder, like here's a set of plans, give it to a builder, build it exactly like that, just move that wall. Well, a lot of times just moving a wall requires a total redesign. Okay, so that's a real careful thing. But I think, that's why we have certification programs that help builders achieve that, because they're now responsible. If they're not going to get an architect or a professional in that realm, then the builder is that professional. They're the ones that have to execute and achieve that performance level. And so we've got a lot of different people involved. There's some disconnect there. If we can see this whole thing, this whole process, again, this level playing field, if we're all on the same page. But I think we really do need to have, the experts helping us until we all can be there. I mean, we just happen to have all these skill sets under one roof. Not everybody's going to find that. It's not everywhere, and so we can handle that. But until we're there, until the architect is that master builder again, where we cover even sometimes be a doctor. I mean, back in Vitruvius's day, architects, it was like they were doctors, they were vets, they were lawyers, they were everything. They were the kind of, and so they would build and design. Until we're there, I mean, I think we have specialists, and that's where we're at now. We're still kind of segmented.
Do you think the performance demands that you and I both hope are going to become more and more central to people's interest in homes are going to mean a resurgence in residential architecture?
I think what we're going to see more is that, I mean, I've known people in other, like in Europe, that they came to visit here, and we happened to go shopping for shoes with these friends, and they take a shoe off the shelf and look at it, and they were pulling apart the seams to see if it would come apart and see. And I said, what are you doing? I mean, are you trying to destroy the shoe? I had no idea. And growing up, and however I grew up, I didn't really put that much effort into it. So it's an investment that they want to last for they want those shoes to be around for 10, 20 years. And because, hey, they want them to go. And now I think that's what people are going to see and demand, that their homes are going to last the 500-year home. They don't want to buy another one in 20 years. It's a different culture now. It's a different way of seeing our homes, our investments, and they're really taking a lot of effort in doing this research. A lot of times I get these people calling, and they've got a laundry list 6 pages long of what all the high performance features they want in this home. And I'm thinking, my gosh, you've done it. You've already taken care. You've designed your house, And a lot of it, of course, we have to weed out, and we have to tell them, okay, you don't need that. You're in Georgia. You don't need 20 inches of insulation on the outside of your home. And so balancing all that, that's still our job, is to bring it all into, integrate it all and understand what's best for the client, the budget, everything, and really making a holistic and integrated design, and then executing it so it doesn't, it is followed through, and it is it's as close to the design as you can get, or better.
Let's go back to certification for a second. You mentioned certifications, and I know that you have had experience with getting up to 5 certifications on one home. Do you think the certifications are the answer, or what's your take on that?
I think they're an answer. They're an answer to a builder or to an industry where the time or the energy is not being put into, knowledge, understanding what's behind those certifications, why we have them. I think it's an answer to help a builder who doesn't know it, learn it, execute it, and be tested on how well they achieved that. I think that's where we're at for a lot of those certifications, because they're all builder based. They're all for the builder. They're all volunteer. None of it's required. When the code starts requiring a lot of these things, and of course then there's enforcement, which is a whole other story, but then it's their responsibility to do it, not just an option. We use certifications to help educate, so it attracts people to see, okay, you've gotten this certified, with DOE zero energy ready homes, or you've done it for passive house. Great. Now we've brought you to, you understand, you see that, yes, we've done that. Let's talk about what's behind that certification, not how many points or what checklist we followed to get there, but what is it that made us do so well to achieve that certification, not from the checklist point of view, but performance and the craftsmanship of it. So it's a way of sort of luring in folks to then be able to educate them, and then they see, wow, certifications aren't really that necessary. It's all about just doing a good job. And so we use it as a tool to help educate and to promote this industry, to promote what we're doing, because there's a tangible, there's something tangible about that people really want to latch on to something. And just to say that I did a really good job on your house isn't always going to be enough. So whatever we can do to help them understand that and see that, this is a pretty verifiable thing, not just my word, or, you don't understand what this blower door means, so that doesn't mean anything to you. So the verifications help as an educational and a promotion tool for this type of design and construction.
Awesome. Chris, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Thanks so much for the great question.
I hope to have you back. Chris Laumer-Giddens is a principal at LG Squared Architects. You've been listening to the Building Performance Podcast from the Building Performance Workshop in Chicago. I'm Corbett Lunsford. Tune in next time.